Morning, everyone. Welcome to this fortnight's press conference. As always, we'll allow our Mayor Marvin Rees to open with some comments and share some news with you, and then we'll do a round robin where you can all ask some questions. Marvin, over to you.
Hi, as ever, I'll whip through a few things and then you can ask me about anything I've raised or anything else you'd like to ask. Ask about. First thing is just a bit on our ongoing top issue for us really at the moment, which is how we deal with the cost of living crisis as it is right now, but as we expect it to intensify later in the year, both as the financial challenges facing Bristol households begin to build on themselves. But also particularly when people want to put their heating on in the autumn. So we certainly see ourselves, preparing for that. There's a broader context to it: increasing inflation, increasing energy bills, increasing taxes, all on households at a time in which we were coming off the back of COVID anyway, or just working out the last, or the seeing through the final stages, of COVID. So a real challenging time off the back of 12 years of austerity funding for local government as well, who I think we now understand, even though it's not fashionable public service, is absolutely essential in providing vital services and local leadership as well. It's not just a collection of services, it's about local leadership. So it is a particularly challenging time for us. We are working on a scheme now, whatever we call it, which is about warm places, and we want to have this in place or designed and ready to go for September, but ready to open in the autumn, where we'll have a network of places around the city where households can go that will be warm, but we're looking for city partners to help design and put those together. Warm places, food, support for homework, outreach and advice services available to people going to those spaces that they can be in. So you can expect to see more and hear about that as the year goes on. And it might actually be something that you as local outlets and your everyday championing of the city that I'm very so aware of would want to contribute to, as well. Secondly, we had Cabinet yesterday. £105 million worth of decisions made around investment into the city. You'll know we're the only core city with a fully funded 100% tax reduction scheme left in place. It's not easy to retain it. It comes at a cost of around £44 million, but it does mean that those people who are struggling to pay their council tax, as many will be now, can apply to us and receive up to 100% discount. Currently supports around 34,500 households in the city, 69% of whom are working age, adults as well. So it's a really important scheme. One of those things that kind of happens invisibly. I shared yesterday in Cabinet that whether it be our council tax reduction scheme, our Meals on Wheels, our work with carers, and children in the care system, there's a lot of stuff that happens every day to support the most vulnerable people in the city, to make sure they have hope. It doesn't get the Twitter profile that so many people bounce off all the time, but nonetheless, it's the hard yards that we in this organisation and many of our partners do every day without much fanfare, and attention, but hugely important. There was also an additional £900,000 into the Clump and Ecological Emergency Programme. The permanent pedestrianisation of the old city and King Street, very popular intervention we've made. That includes a £2 million request from WECA to support that. That area is home to around 60 permanent independent businesses, receives around 69,000 visitors every month as well. But I'd actually go back into the background. A number of the traders had asked us to look at pedestrianisation We moved it through very quickly, and now we're going to be permanent. So that's really positive for that part of the city. In our news yesterday. A couple of final things. It's Carers Week this week. We have around 48,000 unpaid carers in Bristol. It was a challenge before. The challenge would have been compounded by COVID, and the challenge is going to get all the more during the cost of living crisis as well. Around 17,000 carers are known to services in Bristol, but there's likely around 31,000 unknown hidden carers in the city, people who do it, who don't necessarily consider themselves carers, wouldn't define themselves under that label, that are nonetheless doing the job. We want to extend our support to those people around the city as much as we can. It's the right thing to do, but also we recognise that they are a vital part of the country being able to stand on its feet, and a vital part of our health services and our care services being able to continue to function, because they take on so much of that work. So, a big emphasis this week has been about identifying carers, reaching out with the appropriate support. Again, it might be something that you thought about at some point in the future. Who are the carers out there? Tell the stories of these incredible people, and making sure people are fully aware of the support that is available to them that they might not be currently drawing on. And also, it's a big weekend for us in the city. Again, on a very positive note, I'm not even time kind of concertinas. Whether it was last summer or the summer before, I spoke at something called the Big Tent. George Freeman, Conservative MP, is the founder of this, and it is what it says on the tin. It's a big tent of ideas, pulls people together from a whole range of backgrounds to talk about some of the hot issues and challenges and opportunities of our time. I spoke last year after, got on well with George. They wanted to come to Bristol. And after all that planning, Hannah Shackelford in my office done incredible work. The Big Tent launches on Friday. Guests include George Freeman himself, obviously, other senior Conservative politicians, Stephen Kinnock, Annalise Dodds, Sir Ed Davey, our Bristol MPs, and discussions will be covering transport, housing, climate ecology, communities, media, and others. Now, I think that the subjects themselves are vital subjects, but I think that one of the biggest challenges we face, not just as a city, but as a country, is the poor quality of public debate and commentary on that debate. The tendency to lump things into smash, bang, wallop, outrage and all that does not create the space for us to move and to lead a complicated world in the face of complicated challenges where there are no clean solutions and outs. So I'm hoping that, the Big Tent will bring a real dose of urgently needed maturity to the way we talk about the city, and the challenges we face here, but also the way we talk about the challenges facing the world, something that's been sadly lacking. But so let's take any questions from you. And like I said, anything I've talked about, but obviously nothing's off the table for you guys today. You ask me anything you want. Thank you.
Thanks, Marvin. Ellie, would you like to go first?
Thanks. Morning, everyone. Marvin, first, can I ask about the warm places plans? I appreciate it's probably early days, but can you give us any more information in terms of, will there be any council funding or government funding available to help set this up, or will it be entirely reliant on kind of community centres and volunteers, and also the kind of places that you might be looking for?
Yeah, so we're clearly going to put some resource into it, but we are already putting resource into it because the whole process of organising it will be through our community development team, between our public health and community development. And community development are obviously part of public health, are doing the work now. That includes, Ellie, which might be of interest to you, some very specific work on what the cost of living crisis means in Bristol. So not just looking at the national numbers, but how is it landing in the areas and the lives of people in Bristol. So we'd be happy to share that with you. so we will put resource in, but it's not something that can be done without the city. So what we'll be talking to people with venues, and what we're not talking at the moment. I'm kind of looking at about 10 to 11, and this needs to be fully designed. But we're looking at about 10 to 11 hubs around the city that would be willing to be warm places. They could be community venues, faith venues, schools, could even be sports clubs, you know, again, but all that is yet to be worked out. But I think ideally what we would have is as a warm place, homework support, for example, for children who are going there, some activities, something to eat. So we'll be trying to link up with the feeding, the food work we've been doing in Bristol over the last 6 years. And obviously, as I mentioned in the talk, access to advice services. One of the big drives that we have in the city at the moment is to make sure that people are getting all the benefits that they're entitled to. We know that there are, many millions across the country of pounds in benefits that go unclaimed every year that people have a right to. So we want to make sure, as part of our response to cost of living crisis, people are getting access to those. So those kind of advice services will be there. One of the other areas that we'll be asking for help with is transport. So you can imagine if a household, say it's a single parent, for example, I'll use my own example, right? A single mum with 2 kids, right? Is at a warm venue and it's 8:30 at night and they're about to go home and it's wet and dark and cold outside, we'll need to be putting transport on for that. We don't expect them to walk home in the dark with 2 children. So, these are all the things that we're looking at. As you said, it hasn't been solved yet, but these are the component parts that we're trying to work with the city to stitch together to see how we can best support people as we go into those colder months.
Thank you, Marvin. And in terms of people that can access the warm places, will there be any kind of criteria or anything like that, or will it be really just open to anyone that needs it?
I think we're just going to be making it open.
Okay.
And actually, what I don't want it to be is a place of stigma. I prefer it to be a place of community. So I would hope that, as it were, people who don't need it, as it were, are also there, because this is a time when we need people to come together, just as we did during COVID, by the way, in incredible ways as Bristol. So we've got form on this and we've shown what we can do. I hope these are places where people just come together and enjoy each other's company in the face of the challenges we face. We'll eat together. I'll give you a small example of where this works really well and what came to mind. When the churches ran their campaign to open themselves up to rough sleepers during the coldest months, and that's now going on every winter. If you go to those churches, they don't just put a bunch of beds out. They've got board games, they've got conversation, people are eating together. It's actually a proper collection of human relationships. It's not just a bunch of services for desperate people. And I think that's the kind of culture we'd like around this. This is about Bristol coming together, building relationships, in the middle of all this hardship. Let's get something good out of it.
Okay, thank you. I do have another question, if that's okay, about Clean Air Zone and general updates, really. Are we on track for September? How prepared is the city on the whole in terms of businesses? And what's the uptake been like on, I think it was originally almost 6 million allocated for things like free bus tickets, hire of e-bikes, encouraging people to get out of their cars? Yeah.
In terms of where we are on people applying for the grants and the support packages, I'll get you some. I'll get the exact numbers for you on that. I'm just looking through my sheet here because I do have some numbers on it, but
I can send you all the data over early on that.
Let's get you that to avoid me making any errors. Look, where we are with it at the moment is this: we've done everything we can in Bristol. As we said, there are a couple of key players in this. One is Bristol and what we do as a city to prepare for it. But the other key partner is government. And they're obviously a key partner because it's a national scheme. There has been a bit of an issue in that a national change to bus lane regulations by government has actually resulted in one of the suppliers for the implementation changing their work programme. So that's a national issue will play itself out. So that could result in some issues. We're trying to get clarification on details of that now. But it's a concern that we now have that's a bit of disruption with one of the suppliers that could impact on us, and we'll get more information on that. I mean, in the meantime, it's something we're pushing on all fronts. Whether we talk about the layout and the planning of Bristol, you've heard me say before, tackling air quality is about dealing with vehicles as exist on our streets currently. But also it's about how we design the future of the city, which is why we focus on brownfield sites in the middle of the city where people won't need cars. So we're building out car dependency and vehicle dependency in the future, and building in active travel in the very city design and layout. And we're also working with UK 100, and we've co-signed a letter again pushing for government to adopt WHO, that's World Health Organization, clean air standards as well. But these kind of commitments and declarations don't mean anything if you don't put money to it. And in fact, I'm sure you're all aware, I gave a TED talk just a few weeks ago. It was over in Vancouver, and I spoke about making progress on climate and decarbonisation doesn't happen just because you make a declaration about it. It happens when you plan it and pay for it. So we want these commitments we're asking government to make to be attached to real dates, proper plans, and finance, so that we can put the infrastructure in, but also support people through the transition, support businesses through the transition, if we've repeatedly pointed out through this whole clean air process.
Okay, thank you. So just at the moment, you're unclear on the possible implications of this bus lane supplier, but it could potentially be pushing the deadline of the implementation back of the clean air zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are trying to, we're going to get some clarity on the consequences of this national change for us in Bristol over the coming days, and we'll be able to clarify with you. But for in terms of Bristol, we've done, whether it be the physical stuff around the clean air zone, the physical work around delivering the clean air zone, but also the work we've done to prepare the population, to negotiate a support package for the transition. I think physically and socially, we've done what we can as a local authority, but we need government to come through now.
Okay, thank you. Any data on, and also dates for the clean air zone, and also the data on cost of living crisis and how it's affecting Bristol would be really appreciated when they're ready, please.
Yeah, we'll get the numbers to you, so you've got a fuller picture. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ellie. Charlotte from Heart, have you got a question you'd like to ask?
Yeah, sorry, my fingers going slowly. Just wanted to clarify on I know that the funding or the agreement was put through about flood defences for the River Frome, and just wondered how much of a problem that is, or we're seeing that is going to be for Bristol.
Well, is it flooding as a whole as a challenge for us?
Yeah, so I saw that the report was sort of saying that we're seeing that the risk of flooding is sort of rising by 70%, and that's why the money is going to be put in for these flood defences, and just so that we've got some audio to sort of talk around that.
Oh yeah, I mean the threat of flooding to Bristol is something we have to absolutely be aware of. We haven't had, we're due a 100-year flood at some point. And it always seems unlikely until it happens, because it's not something we necessarily grappled with recently. But we urgently need to get our flood defences in across the west of England, which is the area we need to work on, because this is not just about what happens in Bristol's boundaries. It's in South Gloss, it's in Baines, it's in North Somerset, because we share rivers that go through us. We're looking at about a total cost of about £200 million to get the full flood defence in, which is what we need. So what I said at Cabinet yesterday was, this is incredibly welcome, what we're doing, but it's a small part of the bigger scheme we actually need to deliver for the West of England. And I'll add to this. This is about protecting us, right? Protecting households and businesses. So there's a prevention element to it. But actually, there's a positive outcome to that, that when we put the flood defences in, more land becomes available to us because it's then protected land. homes, for employment as well. So it unlocks potential within the city for housing delivery and for meeting our population's needs.
And also, at the moment, we've got, we touched on it yesterday, not with you, sorry, but with, there's the Refugee Festival that's taking place. It's taking place over the next sort of 3 weeks. And that just made me think about what's the latest update with refugees coming into Bristol, with Ukrainian refugees. Do we have any figures on that? And also, are more coming in? And also, is there anything that the council could be doing more?
Well, I can get specific numbers to you on who is in Bristol from where. I think we're doing all we can. We're a city of sanctuary. We live up to that. We're a city of hope. We want to live up to that. But we have to do it responsibly as well. And one of the points we've made repeatedly is we will be open, right? Syrians, unaccompanied children, Hong Kongers, Ukrainians, Afghans. We've had people come into Bristol, and we host people at City Hall, and we say, welcome, you are part of our, of our city. But we need to resource that too. What we don't want to do is bring people here and put them in a house and they're isolated with no support networks. That's bad for them, which is one of the reasons why we constantly press government for a migration policy, an immigration policy that actually reflects the needs and ambitions of our cities, not just some abstract numbers that the government pull out. So I think we're doing all we can. I sit on the Mayor's Migration Council as well. It's a network of 11 mayors, including Montreal, Kampala, Freetown, Sao Paulo, Amman, and we work kind of in tandem really with the C40, which is a network of the world's biggest cities rallied around climate change. 96 mayors, include the current chair of that is Sadiq Khan. The previous chair was Eric Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles. So I think we're doing all we can in terms of what we do within Bristol's boundaries, but what we're also doing to influence global migration policy. We did shape the Global Compact on Migration. We had input to that. But also what we're doing as well to address the push factors. So with the global the Mayor's Global Task Force on Migration and Climate Change, which I'm also a part of, we're working on a prediction of between 150 and 200 million climate-driven migrants by the middle of this century. So I think as a city we really are pushing on all fronts, on this. I'd say just as a matter of principle, just by wider understanding, I think cities do bring a different perspective to migration, maybe to national governments. Subtle but significant. Now we need order. You can't have a disorderly, chaotic migration system. You do need a process, but what that process is designed to do matters. It seems to me that national governments maybe talk in terms of borders and stopping movement. Cities only exist because things move and cross over, right? So where you get cities are at the intersections of transport and movement points. Canals, rail networks, ports, goods and services move, people move, finance moves, cultures move, and there you get cities. The moment you stop things moving, cities begin to die because they exist because stuff moves. So our perspective on migration is one of how do we actually keep culture, finance, people moving around the world? Because that's our lifeblood in many ways. And that's a perspective that we need national government to begin to understand. As I said, we're not looking for, chaos and no order. That's not it. But we need a system that enables cities to be what they are. And we are fundamentally international, dynamic organizations.
Thank you, Marvin. Charlotte, do you have any other questions?
No, that's it. Thank you. Thanks.
No worries. I've popped in the chat, the Zoom chat, the current stats we've got specifically on the Ukrainian scheme. So I think they might be helpful for you.
Thank you.
Alex Seabrook is a new Bristol LDR.
Hi there, yes. Yeah, I've got two, if that's okay. So firstly, I wanted to say your TED Talk was very interesting. I thought you made some good points. But I wondered firstly if you saw the irony in flying so far for a talk on climate change, and secondly, why you couldn't use Zoom instead.
Okay, so you like the talk. Did you deal with the argument? Yeah, what did you think of the argument I made in it?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting, but I just wondered about the irony of flying so fast.
Okay.
It's critical.
So let's work through this. Do you know what the fundamental argument I made in the TED Talk was?
Sure. Sorry, I thought we were asking you questions rather than the other way
I know,
around.
but I'm just trying to see if we're on the same ground. The argument I made in the TED Talk, the fundamental argument was
Sorry, the question was, do you see the irony in flying so far?
yeah. So I'm saying, but but that depends on what the argument in the talk was. I'm saying, do we know what
elected mayor stepping up, right? To tackle climate change, we have to work together. We need the finance, we need the investment,
and mayors need to. Well, I'll help you out. So the argument was that mayors need to be involved in shaping national and international policy. So that's what that was. So there's no irony because I was there shaping national and international policy. The argument was we can't leave it to national politicians because they're failing. We saw that at COP. So cities are, so let me take you through the argument in case, just if you engage with it. You need to decarbonize the world's cities because that's where most people live. And through cities, you can make more lives more efficient than through any other form of human organization, more quickly. At the moment, the national and international context in which we work is not supporting cities to decarbonize, right? It's not coherent. So what we are doing as cities is not waiting. We need national governments to work with us, but we're not waiting for them. So we are going out and we are working together to raise finance, as we do with the UK Climate Investment Commission, for example. And we're working together to shape national and international policy. So that's it. Have you seen any TED conferences that were run by Zoom?
Not yet, but it might be a good idea.
Okay, well, you probably want to write to TED then about that. But Zoom wasn't on the table. I mean, Bill Gates was there, Al Gore was there talking about climate change. Elon Musk was there, you know. And I think one of the things we could do is talk about how fantastic it, you know, it's great for Bristol as a city of less than 500,000 people. We are being asked to take a platform at TED and shape global thinking, actually, which has actually begun to echo from that. So the argument, so the question is the argument coherent and does it stack up? And if it's coherent and it stacks up, the question is, how do you get the biggest platform for that argument? If the argument stacks up and then we lead to unlocking or contributing to the unlocking of billions, potentially into trillions of pounds to invest in cities, not just in the global north, but in the global south, then it's about how do you maximize the platform for that? I mean, all the best will in the world, getting it on Bristol Live website ain't going to give us that platform, is it?
Sure, well, thanks very much. And on that topic then of getting the investment.
Alex, may I just ask a question, if I may? Just in terms of, sorry, your role as an LDR. So from my understanding, it would be to, you know, report and provide impartial coverage regarding sort of the regular workings of local authorities and public sector bodies. And so I suppose my question is that Marvin was fully funded by TED. To attend this conference, so I couldn't quite understand what the role as an LDR would be in asking those questions.
Well, because it's holding the people who lead local authorities to account, Marvin obviously being the lead of Bristol City Council, and there were obviously questions with the huge amount of carbon emissions from flying so far. So I think it's a legitimate question to ask.
I just, I think it is from probably a journalist from a newspaper, etc. But I can't quite see the link to LDR. But I'll leave it there. You had a second question?
Yes, if that's okay. So it's on the.
I would just say, I would ask, and this is why I'm so pleased that the Big Tent is here on Friday. Please be familiar with the actual substance of the arguments and not just the tweets that are around it when we're asking questions about things. It really helps the city engage with a debate as it actually is, rather than just the heat of the social media. But please go on to your second question.
Sure, thank you. So it's on the City Leap deal, which also looks very interesting, and on the topic of what you're saying about getting the investment that we need to decarbonize. But it seems almost too good to be true, this American company coming here and spending £400 million. What are they getting out of the deal themselves, Ameresco? And does the council face any risks of potential unexpected costs further down the line?
Well, there is no deal without risks. So if you read the cabinet paper, then you can, it's all in the cabinet paper. You can get all the details of the deal. And they're a private company. There has to be a return, as it won't happen. And again, if you go back to well, if you take the TED talk and do some lateral thinking around it as well, we're not going to decarbonize just with public sector money. If you're aware of any huge public sector funding pots that are going to cover the cost of the £206 million across the UK core cities decarbonisation plus London, then please let me know. But we're not aware of it. We have to get private sector money in there. To mobilise private sector money, there has to be a return in there. We can wait for a pure approach, but then we'll be way past 2030 if we do so. So that's what we have to do. And I'm glad that you recognise just how fantastic a deal it is. As I said, go get a cabinet paper, do some reading, have another listen to my TED talk, push my views up.
Sure, thanks very much. That's it from me.
All right.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone joining us today. If you've got any follow-up questions, I know, Ellie, we said we'd get some info to you. We'll share that all with you regarding the CAS stats and the number of people that have applied for the schemes. And any other follow-ups, then please get in touch. But
Ellie,
have a lovely week.
Ellie, if you want to do anything more on cost of living as well, let us know, because I think that range of partners that we're going to be working with could be really quite interesting, whether it be from food to educational support and some of the support services and advice services that we're going to be trying to pull in as well.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to know a bit more about it from a Bristol perspective, so that'd be good. Thanks.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Take
Take
care.
care.